Ethan Sterling was a billionaire known for his generosity, a man who built his empire on the idea of giving back. His charity, the Sterling Foundation, was supposed to be a beacon of hope, providing food, shelter, and medical aid to those in need. But when millions in donations mysteriously vanished, whispers of corruption reached his ears. Determined to uncover the truth, Ethan did the unthinkable. He went undercover as a janitor in his own foundation. What he discovered shocked him to his core. Employees he trusted were stealing donations, selling supplies on the black market, and pocketing money meant for the helpless. But they had no idea who they were betraying. And when Ethan finally revealed himself, justice was swift and merciless. The Grand Hall of Sterling Foundation buzzed with chatter as donors, celebrities, and business moguls mingled over glasses of champagne. Ethan Sterling, the billionaire philanthropist behind the foundation, stood at the center of it all, shaking hands and offering his signature charismatic smile. On the surface, everything looked perfect. But beneath the glittering chandeliers and perfectly tailored suits, Ethan couldn't shake a growing suspicion. Reports of missing funds had reached him, large sums vanishing from the foundation's accounts with no trace. At first, he thought it was an error, maybe a technical glitch, but then whispers reached his ears, allegations of corruption within his own organization. Employees he trusted might be stealing from the very people they had sworn to help. Ethan knew he couldn't simply accuse his staff without proof. He had built his empire on strategy and precision, and this would be no different. If there was betrayal within his own walls, he would find out himself. So, for the first time in years, the billionaire disappeared. In his place, a scruffy, unshaven man named Ben Carter applied for a janitorial position at the foundation's main office. With cheap clothes, worn-out sneakers, and a fake ID, Ethan Sterling stepped into his own empire as a ghost, unnoticed, invisible, just another worker in the background. From day one, he saw cracks in the system. His first shift started in the warehouse, where donated supplies were stored before being distributed to shelters. There, he met Lucas, a middle-aged supervisor with a cigarette dangling from his lips and a perpetual scowl. "New guy, huh?" Lucas muttered, barely looking up. "Don't touch nothing, you're not supposed to, and don't ask too many questions." "Got it?" Ethan simply nodded, keeping his head down. But as he worked through the shelves, moving boxes labeled for orphanages and disaster relief, he noticed something odd. Some of the boxes were half empty. Others were completely missing. That night, he stayed late, pretending to mop floors as he watched Lucas and two other employees load boxes into an unmarked van. Supplies meant for struggling families, blankets, food, medical kits were being stolen under everyone's noses. The next day, Ethan made his way into the finance department under the guise of cleaning the offices. He carefully studied documents left out on desks, scanning donation reports and financial statements. It didn't take long to find what he was looking for: transactions that didn't add up, money being funneled into unknown accounts. It was worse than he thought. Not only were supplies being stolen, but millions in donations were being embezzled. The names behind the accounts were familiar: Lucas, a few high-ranking managers, even his own chief financial officer, Daniel Monroe. Ethan clenched his fists. These were men he had trusted, men who had stood beside him at charity events, pretending to care about the mission. They had used his foundation as their personal piggy bank while children went hungry and families remained homeless. He needed proof, undeniable evidence. Over the next few weeks, Ethan documented everything. He took photos, recorded conversations, and even followed the stolen supplies to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. There, he saw Lucas meeting with black market dealers, selling off donations meant for the needy. The final blow came when he overheard Daniel Monroe bragging in his office. "These rich donors," Daniel laughed, swirling a glass of whiskey, They throw money at this place like it's nothing. And Sterling? That fool doesn't even check the books. As long as we put on a good show, he's happy. Ethan had heard enough. The time for investigation was over. Now, it was time for action. The next morning, Ethan Sterling walked through the doors of his own foundation, not as Ben Carter the janitor, but as himself. The entire office fell silent as he strode down the hallway, his sharp suit and piercing gaze sending shivers through the guilty. Lucas turned pale when he saw him. Daniel Monroe nearly choked on his coffee. Ethan didn't bother with pleasantries. He walked straight into the boardroom, his security team behind him, and threw a thick file onto the table. Documents, photos, video recordings, every ounce of corruption laid bare. "You all had one job," Ethan said, his voice cold. "To help people. To make a difference. Instead, you lined your pockets with blood money." Daniel stammered, "Ethan, I can explain." "You can explain to the police." Within minutes, authorities swarmed the building. Lucas and his crew were arrested on the spot. Daniel Monroe was dragged out in handcuffs, his protests drowned by the flashing cameras of reporters who had been tipped off. The scandal made headlines, but Ethan didn't care about the damage to his reputation. The only thing that mattered was justice. Over the next few months, Ethan Sterling dedicated himself entirely to rebuilding the Sterling Foundation. The betrayal had shaken him, but he refused to let corruption define his life's work. Every stolen dollar was traced, recovered, and redirected to the people who had been wronged. Ethan personally oversaw the restructuring of financial systems, ensuring tighter security and full transparency. No donation would ever go unaccounted for again. Employees who had turned a blind eye were dismissed, replaced by individuals with integrity and passion for the cause. Background checks became stricter, and every department was scrutinized. Ethan didn't just want to fix the damage, he wanted to create an organization stronger than ever before. Public trust had wavered after the scandal, but Ethan refused to hide. He met with donors face to face, promising that their generosity would never again be abused. He personally visited shelters, orphanages, and hospitals funded by his foundation, ensuring every cent reached those in need. The media had once painted him as a Navy billionaire who had been fooled, but now they saw a man determined to make things right. One evening, as Ethan stood before a newly opened shelter funded entirely by recovered money, he watched a group of children laughing and playing. That was the moment he knew his fight had been worth it. This was his mission, and no amount of greed, deception, or betrayal would ever take it away from him again. And as he stood before a crowd at a new shelter opening, he made a vow. "Never again," he said. "Not on my watch."